What happens when an AA group starts relying on outside money to keep its doors open? Would it still have the same sense of unity, responsibility, and personal commitment that makes AA work? The seventh tradition ensures that AA remains self-supporting, free from outside influences, and driven by the commitment of its members. Without it, financial dependence could compromise the fellowship's independence and ultimately its effectiveness in carrying the message. Today, we're breaking down why AA refuses outside contributions, how this tradition keeps the fellowship strong, and what happens when groups don't honor this principle. If you haven't yet, subscribe to this channel for recovery content, and if this message resonates with you, share it with someone who needs it. As always, I'm not a spokesperson for AA or claiming membership in any 12-step fellowship. I'm sharing from my own experience with the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and my own recovery journey. The seventh tradition states every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At first glance, this might seem like just a financial guideline, but it's much deeper than that. This tradition is about independence, responsibility, and unity. AA has no outside funding, no wealthy sponsors, no government grants, and no corporate backing. And that's intentional. If AA accepted outside money, those contributors could influence decisions, control policies, or even change the message. But because AA is self-supporting, it remains completely free to carry the message without outside pressure. No government, no business, no wealthy donor can tell AA how to run its program. This is how the integrity of AA is preserved. Let's talk about why Tradition 7 exists. The long form of this tradition expands on this idea. The AA groups themselves ought to be fully supported by the voluntary contributions of their own members. We think that each group should soon achieve this ideal, that any public solicitation of funds using the name of Alcoholics Anonymous is highly dangerous. Whether by groups, clubs, hospitals, or other outside agencies, that acceptance of large gifts from any source or contributions carrying any obligation whatever is unwise. In the early days of AA, some members suggested seeking donations from churches, hospitals, and even wealthy benefactors to help spread the message. It seemed like a good idea. More money means more help, right? But Bill W. and the early members quickly realized a serious danger. If AA relied on outside funding, it would also have to answer to outside influences. Imagine if a wealthy donor wanted to dictate who could attend meetings, or if a hospital wanted AA to change the program to fit their treatment model. Or if a government grant came with rules that compromised AA's principles. AA had to remain free, not just from alcohol, but from financial control. So from the beginning, AA decided no outside donations, no money sponsors, and no public fundraising. AA would only be supported by AA members, $1 cup of coffee at a time. Now, what happens when this tradition is broken? When groups violate Tradition 7, they put their independence at risk. There have been cases where treatment centers have tried donating money to meetings held at their facilities, only to later influence those meetings, changing the format, dictating leadership, or even requiring attendance. Some groups have received large anonymous donations, only to later find that strings were attached. And there have been moments where AA could have accepted government funding, but at what cost? Would AA still be AA if it had to answer to outside policies and laws? The moment AA becomes financially dependent on anything other than its members, it starts losing control of its message and purpose. Let me tell you about some personal experience with this tradition that I think will shed light on a different aspect of inspiration for members. I remember when I was homeless, attending 12-step meetings every single day, and always having to pass the basket by without being able to put anything in it. One day, when I was in my second week of recovery, a mentor of mine gave me a C note, as he called it, or Benjamin as I called it, or $100 to make it easier. I remember my first thought was excitement for how I could finally put something in the basket for these meetings I'd been attending every day for months. I went straight to the bank and broke that note and had 10 crisp $1 bills I started putting in one at a time. I felt a part of, like I was contributing something, and I felt like the fellowships were actually mine and I was no longer only taking from them. Giving to the seventh tradition basket, by definition, makes you a member. And oftentimes, we haven't felt like a member of anything in a while. So, let's talk about how to honor the seventh tradition. Honoring the seventh tradition means taking responsibility for our fellowships. First, give what you can. Every contribution, no matter how small, helps keep meetings running. Second, encourage self-support. Help newcomers coming in to understand why we don't take outside money and what it means for them to give what they can when they can. Last and not least, always say no to outside funding. No government grants, no corporate donations, no wealthy benefactors. Meetings are not free. Someone pays for rent, coffee, literature, chips, and supplies. And it's our responsibility to make sure that cost is covered by those of us who benefit from it. If we don't support AA, who will? No one. And that's exactly how it should be. The seventh tradition is backed by spiritual principles that keep AA strong. Number 1, self-support. We take responsibility for our own recovery, just like we take responsibility for our own lives. Number 2, independence. AA remains free to help alcoholics without outside control. Number 3, integrity. We don't compromise the message for money. Number 4, gratitude. Giving back is an act of appreciation for the gift of sobriety. AA and other 12-step fellowships exist because its members keep it alive. By practicing Tradition 7, we protect the fellowship, preserve the message, and ensure that AA remains a place where suffering alcoholics can find the real solution. So next time you see that basket going around, ask yourself, am I doing my part to keep AA free and self-supporting? Because the future of our fellowships depends on it. Thank you for watching, and always protecting the integrity of the message as you continue living Recovered on Purpose. If you want to watch our guide on all 12 traditions, you can click right here. Or if you want to watch my TEDx talk, Relapse Prevention Failed, you can click right here.